Welcome to a new video. Let's take a look at some malicious compliance stories. The first story is called, "Right Away, Sir." I was working as the front office manager of a hotel near a major international airport. I was answering phone calls in the back office. The hotel offers a complimentary airport shuttle. The hotel was about a 10 to 15 minute drive from the airport pickup location. It can take a long time to walk from the airport gates to the pickup area. There was one turnaround between the airport and the hotel. Once past the turnaround, the shuttle has to come all the way back to the hotel. Shuttles were not allowed to stop in the pickup area unless loading or unloading passengers. The port will fine us if we don't follow the rules. And shuttles were also not allowed in the cell phone waiting lot. We got a call onto the front desk one day. I answered the phone. "Airport Hotel, how may I direct your call?" "I need a shuttle from the airport." "Okay, which pickup zone are you in?" "I just walked off my flight." "I'm heading over there, I'll go to zone 3. "Okay, would you mind calling back when you are a bit closer to the pickup area? If you aren't there when our shuttle comes through, it will make your wait much longer." The guy screamed in the phone, "Just send the shuttle." So I comply. I send Jim to the airport. Shortly after Jim leaves, I get another call for a pickup of a small family. When Jim arrives at the airport, he picks up the family, but the guy is nowhere to be found. So I tell Jim to come back to the hotel. A minute or so later, we got another call. It was that guy again. "Airport Hotel, how may I direct your call?" "I'm here at pickup zone 3. Where is the shuttle?" "Let me check on the shuttle's location, please hold." I contacted Jim on the radio. "Jim, did you pass the turnaround?" "I just passed it." "Alright, there's another pickup for you at the airport after returning to the hotel." Back on the phone, "Hi sir, I'm sorry but you just missed the shuttle and he already passed the turnaround. He will be back as soon as possible but your wait will be 30 to 40 minutes. "What? I called 15 minutes ago for the shuttle. Let me speak to the manager." "Sir, I am the manager and I specifically warned you that this could happen. Your response was, send the shuttle. I did exactly as you asked." The guy hung up on me and didn't say a word about it at check-in. The next story is called, "Refused to be served by a woman." I worked at a pub on and off for about 3 years, not full-time but rather on a 0-hours contract. Basically, I picked up shifts whenever I was back from uni and got paid per shift. They had a decent turnover of the back-of-house staff, so as someone who knew pretty much everything in there, I would generally be the person to fix issues whenever a newer member of staff had a problem. So I'm on a barbecue shift, which means I'm running food outside. There's also a bar out there which was taken care of by a female co-worker, and every now and then a manager would check up and make sure everything was all right. We had 3 managers on at the time, and they generally helped out wherever was needed. Nobody was afraid to get their hands dirty. It was a quiet night, so we were basically chilling out there, serving the occasional burger or drink. Well, I go in to help out on glasses since as always it was backed up, and when I came back out again this guy was basically standing angrily by the bar. The female co-worker is visibly upset, not crying or anything but clearly not having a good time, and as I walk up this guy sees my apron and puts his hands on his hips. Finally. "Get me your manager. I want this girl gone." Now I'm understandably doubtful she's done anything that bad, especially since she's relatively new, so before doing anything I bring her around the back and ask her. Turns out she'd messed up this guy's pint, and he'd gone off about how women can't pour beer and that she shouldn't even be there, it was a man's job. I told her I'd sort it out, leave him with me and you continue to watch the bar in the meanwhile. Now I wasn't going to let this go unpunished, so here's where the compliance comes in. Remember, there are 3 managers on at the time. 2 were on the floor currently, both men and both perfectly capable of sorting this out, but the 3rd was female. We'll call her Kate. Now Kate was the most senior manager on, hence why she was in the office sorting out admin things like emails. And she took absolutely no crap whatsoever. For reference, when she finally left the pub it was to go to work as a prison officer. She was a great manager for getting things done, but definitely not afraid to stamp her authority if need be. In short, not someone you want to be on the wrong end of. You can guess which manager I went to. She was at first annoyed I was trying to drag her all the way outside. But when I explained fully she just stopped typing, stood up and told me to lead the way, which I did. Smiling all the way, because I knew exactly what was coming next. I lead her down, and as the guy sees us approaching his face just falls off a cliff. I've never seen anyone go from angry to "oh no" that quickly ever since, it was just glorious. Kate is of course very polite but makes a point of introducing herself as head manager of the pub, not strictly true but it got the job done. He stutters about having his pint messed up and she tells him he can have another one on the house. Then she proceeds to go behind the bar and pour it herself, before handing it to him. I can feel how badly he wants to complain about it from across the bar, but eventually, he takes his drink and walks off without another word. Kate just gives me a look and a little smile before walking back to the office. Yes, it probably would have been more efficient to do literally anything else to resolve this whole thing. In fact, I probably could have just comped a drink myself and he would have gone off. But the result was worth it. The third story is called Creative Problem Solving. Several years ago at my first IT job, I worked in a pretty great office. Well, great except for one coworker. Everyone in this office had the same job. We worked desk-side IT support. This required a lot of walking, crawling under desks and carrying equipment. Each of my co-workers had an assigned area that they were responsible for and pulled their weight. All except for Blondie. One day at work, we had a large project. My manager required everyone to pitch in to get this done by the deadline. Everyone, except Blondie. Every time there was work to do she would say she couldn't because of her heels or skirt. Someone else would have to do her share. Normally I do not care what she or anyone else does or does not do. I do my work, she does hers. On this day, I was tasked to do the work she was assigned. I was not happy. The next day another co-worker of mine, also female, was assigned the work Blondie could not do because of her wardrobe choices. That day at lunch we come up with a plan. We will wear kilts the next day and the other two women will wear skirts and heels to work. The next day at work, we show up to our morning huddle to get our assignments for the day. My boss is visibly uncomfortable, half of his team is in skirts or kilts. I get my assignments for the day and immediately tell my boss I can't due to me wearing a kilt. The rest follow my lead. I feel bad for my remaining co-workers having to pull my weight, but they think what we are doing is funny. This day was amazingly unproductive. No one can say anything about it because they have let Blondie do this for literally years. Day 2 my boss is even more frustrated and pulls me aside. I hand him a well-written dress code policy that another office uses that has already been approved by legal. He spends the day fast-tracking the approval of this policy. At the end of another horribly unproductive day, we have a surprise team meeting. There is now a dress code that requires long pants and closed-toe shoes for safety reasons. Blondie's look of rage directed at me made no mistake that she knew I was responsible for this. The fourth story is called Sure Thing, Boss. I work at a spa at the front desk. The employees get a pretty good discount on services, so plenty of them get their nails, lashes, and hair done regularly. The rule is pay when your service is done, but some wiggle room was allowed in the case of payday is tomorrow, I'll pay as soon as the money goes through, or if the front desk was busy helping clients and they had to leave. We know where they will be tomorrow morning at 9. We would put these services on hold and the employee would pay as soon as possible. It mostly worked on the honor system of don't abuse it or we can't have nice things anymore. Most employees were pretty good about it, but of course, there were the few that regularly forgot for days or weeks or said, I can't pay today, I'll pay tomorrow. And these few were usually the ones with the most seniority. One of these employees, in particular, was far worse than the others. On to the compliance. One day the owner comes in to pick some things up and asks someone on the desk, what is that little button with 23 notifications on it? I stepped in and answered, that's the staff services that are on hold. We have less than 23 employees, which means that one or more employees owe for multiple services. The owner exploded. She started shouting that it's absolutely ridiculous this many people owed her money and how could you have let it get this far and who are the employees that owe? I started to reply, well, most of them are, but she cuts me off and says, just add it up now and tell me so I can talk to them about taking it out of their paychecks. I started to open up the window to show the list of employees who owed for services and said, okay, just letting you know that the reason there are so many. And she cuts me off again and says, you guys always have an excuse. There is no excuse, just do it. She storms off to the staff room. My other desk co-worker, who had been hiding in the bathroom, comes out and asks, did she see the names on the list? I replied she did not and got to work on my list, writing out the names of the employees next to their total owing for their services in order from most owed to least. About 30 minutes later the boss comes down in all her glory and demands the list. I handed it to her and after glancing at it for a moment she froze. If you have never seen someone lose their steam in front of your very eyes, I highly recommend it. At the top of my list is this owner's adult daughter's name, who happens to be an employee and consequently owes the spa nearly $400 in services, after her 50% discount and not including taxes. She had gone back to school recently and was only working part-time, so I guess she was short on money and regularly snuck out without paying for her lashes and her nails. After staring at the list for a moment in silence, she went over to the computer, opened up the list of on-hold services and scrolls through. 90% of the services on hold are her daughter's. After a few more minutes of staring at the list, she finally looks up and says, "I'm her mother and the owner. So I'm going to pay for this. However, I want all the receipts to give her and she is not to get any services unless she prepays. I'll tell her this myself. Make sure the rest of the on-holds are paid by the end of the employee's next shifts." I cashed her daughter's services out, bundled the receipts, gave them to my boss, and she thanked me and left. The last story is called Make My Own Decisions. I used to go to the Mormon church every Sunday. My mum is super religious, while I am not. This happened a few months ago. For whatever reason, the Mormon church makes teenagers attend seminary and young men's. Seminary is an hour lesson every morning before school, and young men's is an event every Wednesday night. Basically, I had to go to most seminary and young men events because of my mum. There's a bunch of things I disagree with what the church does, and I am mentally not in the church anymore. A quick example is that they take 10% of income as tithing. Point is, they also take up a lot of your free time, demanding you contribute and invading your personal space if you refuse. I was tasked with a project in seminary and organizing 3 events for young men's. Honestly, I'm planning a hiking trip and cross-country skiing and whatnot. When I got really busy with school, I stopped going to seminary as I wanted an extra hour of sleep. Guess what? The church pestered me for not going to seminary. It's so important. For me, it is not. I didn't go to seminary and they continued to pester me. Come time, they start encouraging us to use our agency. They made a whole 3-hour-long service talking about the agency and the importance of it. Agency, to my understanding, is the ability for an individual to make own decision to find out the truth. They started saying this as a motivator to be more active in church and find stories that prove the church to be true. But I did the opposite. So instead of researching about why the church is true, I found out about why it's a whole corporate lie for money basically. I used my agency to find the real truth about the church. For my seminary project, I made a whole presentation about the negative aspects of the church and why we need to be more careful with what's happening. I talked about Joseph Smith and his 30-something wives, the hypocrisy in the church, and all the other problems I could find. Then, I left. They didn't have anything else planned for young men's. They invaded my house to try and get me to go back. They gave me calls to bring me back. It was pretty simple what I would say. I'm utilizing my agency. Please respect that. They didn't have young men's for a month, because I wasn't there to organize anything else. Not only that, but my presentation also encouraged other people to stop going to church too. It may not seem like a big deal, but this is a big church and bringing it down as much as I can bring me joy, especially after all the pain it's caused me. I'm glad to say that I've gotten my hour of sleep back, and now my Sunday is free for watching movies. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider subscribing to the channel for more content. Let me know what you think about the stories in the comment section below. Have a great day.